All right, what up, people? This is another episode of Fun and Truth in Black and White with Pat and Jay. Tonight's episode is post moves. So, Pat, post moves are when you're closest to the basket and you're calling for the ball, you got a defender on your back, and that's the hardest shot to make. It's the highest percentage, but it's the hardest shot to make because everybody's trying to stop you from making that shot.
Yeah, the biggest thing about post moves is it requires practice.
That's right.
So heaving the ball up from deep, like 3-point shots or free throws, like other things you can get lucky with. A post move, you're essentially doing a maneuver without looking at the basket. Mm-hmm. So the only way you'll have any type of success is if you've practiced those post moves.
Yeah.
So let's now correlate that to real life.
Yeah.
Relationships.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things you can wing, but there are some things you need to perfect.
That's right. You have to constantly be working on them. And, I think that to take it one step further, going back to, what it's about, so those maneuvers have to become routine. And the reality of the practice that you're doing is that you have to understand, even when you practice the move, you have to anticipate the situation may be different every time. So there's little things that you have to feel in the flow of the game, the situation, where you adjust, and based on how much you are practicing is, your ability to hit that high percentage shot every time. So what I'm really saying here for our listeners is that it's not just about practice. It's about understanding that practicing these things, going through them, creating a routine, you not only get better at what you're doing, but you're able to adjust more effectively to the little nuances that life throws at you in that particular situation.
Yeah, and I think that the preparation changes with each layer of the relationship, right? So let's start with something safe. Let's talk about finances, right?
Yeah.
So you've had girlfriends, you've had boyfriends, you've lived with one person, whatever, you're married, whatever situation, money always comes up.
Right.
Right? So who's paying what bill? What are the expectations? Right? So no matter what situations you've been in, it doesn't completely prepare you for your new relationship, right?
Right.
Because you might be with a woman with a person who's like, parents gave them everything. Right. They worked for nothing. Mm-hmm. The previous people that person has dated gave them everything. They didn't share. They didn't pay a check for dinner. They didn't pay a bill in the house. So now you're dating them, and you're of the mentality, well, we're in this together.
Right.
I don't want you to take care of me exclusively, but you're not my offspring. Like, I'm not trying to take care of you exclusively. Like, we're going to put our resources together.
Right.
You might think that's an easy sell,
mm-hmm.
but to some people, that's not it. That's a deal breaker.
Right. Right. So, I think that one of the things to sort of look at in that situation is, again, you're close to the basket. You're trying to make a score here. You're trying to win a point. And, based on how much experience you have in this situation is whether or not, you're going to throw up a brick, or you're going to lay it up off the backboard, or you're going to have your shot blocked. And the The percentages are really based on understanding who you are and where you are on the court in that situation and what the real expectation against you is. So, you use the idea of finances and, whether or not you're going to split bills or you're going to have to carry the load. The reality is it's how you first confront the conversation. This particular subject of finances is a very real, very important aspect of any relationship that's going past the third date.
So that's laying the groundwork.
Right.
So like just back to basketball for a second. So early in the game, you want to see what your opponent has.
That's exactly right.
So whether you're successful or not, you take the ball down low.
Mm-hmm.
So you find out what they're working with. No pun intended there, but you're like, well, are they strong down here? Can they defend? Are they gonna
How
go?
much pushback?
Are they gonna go for my fakes?
Right.
Whatever. So same thing in a relationship. In the very beginning, you better lay the foundation. And I don't mean put your foot down. I mean the two of you, both sides, have to figure out what works. But here's the problem.
You have to establish yourself.
Here's the problem. We talked about this on one of the previous episodes. I forget what it was entitled, but people send their representatives.
Right.
So dates 1 through 3, person A is like saying what they think you want to hear.
Right.
So they say that for a goal. Either they just want to have sex with you, or they're trying to impress you, or they're trying to make some other schmuck jealous. Whatever. They have some kind of goal, and their goal at that time may not be a long-term goal.
That's correct.
So it's not that they're totally full of shit, but it could be that their thoughts are finite. Right? They're not thinking about 6 months from now. They're thinking about the next 3 weeks.
They're looking at having a good time.
Right.
They may not necessarily be looking, at a one-night stand, but they're like, I don't know where this is going to go yet. I'm just having fun.
Correct.
I think what's really interesting in what you just brought up is that this is a difference between personality and character. So when you first enter a relationship, as you said, you send your representative. But even with your representative, there's a certain amount of your character that goes into that representative that you're sending. If that character, that reflection of your character in that representative is not strong, exactly as you were talking about in terms of establishing, the further you go down the road, the harder you have to work in the post, because now the other person is seeing your game and putting up all sorts of defenses against you.
So you know how like when you play in the post and the person fouls you.
Right.
And I'm not talking about pickup. I'm talking about organized basketball. So now after a certain amount of fouls, they get eliminated from the game, or they have to go to the bench.
Right.
So depending how the conversations go and the tug of war
Right.
of control and power goes, you might get somebody on the defensive so much that they blew it in those conversations, and now you have all the advantage.
Right.
Or vice versa, you could have blown it, said the wrong thing, like, oh, why did I say that? And now they have all the advantage. But back to character, though, it's 3 things. Like, is what is represented? Is it based on who you are? Is it based on who you want to be in the relationship? Is it based on who you're trying to convince the person you are?
Right.
Or is this just a matter of maturity? So not really on this same subject, but I remember growing up, you would have a girlfriend, right? And you would cheat on that girlfriend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're so immature, you're telling other girls you have no girlfriend.
Right.
So now you're going around town or your city and you're ducking and hiding because you lied.
Right.
Then at some point you realize, I'm an adult. I'm going to tell people, yes, I'm dating someone. I have a girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And the same people, then you begin to realize you never had to lie to begin with.
Right.
Because people, they either want to rock with you or they don't. They either want to date you or they don't. And people can respect honesty. Mm-hmm. So those lies in the beginning, adolescence or what have you, it's because you're not mature.
Right.
I don't know if it's really based on character, but with the finances situation, that was just one leg. Like
Right.
another leg of like post moves and preparation and situational, being adept in different situations, even in the bedroom, right? So, a person can approach intimacy completely selfishly.
Mm-hmm.
Every partner they've been with has been at their beck and call,
Right.
done what they wanted, when they wanted, how they wanted. Like, I'm talking about like the woman that's so hot, guys falling all over her. She never learned how to make love. Like, she doesn't know how to be. She's not good at it. She knows this lady. She's so dope. She's so attractive. She never had to do. Or she thinks she never had to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
What she had to do was look good and lay there, trophy wife type shit.
Right.
Or you have the guy that his body's so crazy, or he's so popular, whatever. He doesn't know what he's doing either.
Right.
So you get these people going into relationships or going into the bedroom, always feeling like they were the prize.
Right.
And maybe they don't even know how to please somebody in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's another example of like lack of preparation and things that can get set up from the beginning. So if at the onset, that's what happens, you might be crippling the relationship going forward.
All right, let's take a break. We'll be right back. And when we come back, I think we want to get a little bit more into those fakes, trying to break free from the defense.
Yeah, I think the safe chapter is over.
All right, we're back. So, Pat, we ended the last segment, talking about. Well, let me just cut right to the chase. Let's ramp this up, man. So, we understand that these are post moves. So, you got a defender on your back, right? Are you going left or right? What are you doing?
I'm feeling for what a defender is.
Okay, give it to me.
Because that, you can use their weight against them.
Okay.
Weight in a relationship is like what's important to the other person.
Okay.
In basketball, it's different, but basically you're feeling for what your opponent is looking for.
Right.
And
So
you react accordingly.
your defender is anticipating that you're going to go right. And so you fake right and go left. And now you've got an advantage on them. And not only do you have an advantage on them, but if you go left, now you can bring your right arm around to make the shot. And if they want to defend it, they have to go across your body. So it's very hard for them now to defend that shot because of the fake you made. So in a relationship, what you're talking about is the fact that if they're looking for you to make an easy mistake, they're trying to pick you apart, that if you make a mistake, they can hold that against you and they can immediately dismiss you. And you shock them. You surprise them because where they were looking for you to make a mistake, you showed up like gold.
So in dating, so there's the stages. So let's start. So boy meets girl, like right at its outset, right? How important is that interaction? Like what's said? Like are you introduced by somebody else? Where you meet, how you meet? Like does it matter if you meet at the gym, supermarket, in a club, at a bar, coffee shop? Like does that matter? Like does that affect the foundation of the relationship?
Right.
I wonder because think about it. If you meet somebody and you feel, whether true or not, you feel you're at your worst. Like you look your worst. Like if you're a woman, whatever you think, you look your worst and you met this guy and you're a guy and you're like, I didn't shave, my clothes are raggedy. What? Now, if that interaction went well, you might be thinking, I got nowhere to go but up.
Right.
This person was feeling me at my worst.
Right.
Right? What if a situation where is it affect if a person meets you at the bank and they happen to be at an adjacent desk while you close some kind of deal,
Right.
You know, or if a person meets you leaving the car dealership.
Right.
Like, all these things, do they light a fuse in a certain direction?
Right.
Like, does it affect how the person's going to look at you?
Right.
Okay?
Well, it might affect you in terms of how you think the person's going to look at you.
It could affect both sides.
Yeah. How many times do we hear about somebody doing exactly what you're talking about from the standpoint of awareness of the other person looking at them, or they know the other person's in the room and they want to impress that person, so now they big up, you know, it becomes a big situation in terms of what they're doing to look that good to impress the other person.
So is it important, and I'm asking this rhetorically because it must be important, to not establish a standard you can't maintain?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so like,
If suddenly, you know, you're the Incredible Hulk, and the truth is you ain't green and you ain't, you know,
or let's
you ain't
say,
full of gamma.
let's say you're balling, like you're in a situation where, I don't know, let's just say somebody gifted you something.
Mm-hmm.
And this person sees you at a suite at Yankee Stadium.
Right.
You're not sitting in general population, you know, but they meet you in this capacity. So
Right.
now they think,
Yo, you the man.
and now the next time they see you,
Right.
you're like yelling out for a hot dog because you're sitting in,
Right.
right? I'm just saying, like, that first day, you should have been like, let me tell you how I got these tickets. Like,
Right.
you know, just keep it real without playing yourself.
Right.
You know.
So getting back to the, you know, the post moves, and, you know, really what this is all about is that you get past the first couple of the first couple of dates. Now you're in the game. And the thing about a relationship, it isn't one date or one, you know, interaction. Once you get past date 3, now you're going out on a consistent basis. You're having to plan when the next time you're going to see each other. What's that interaction going to be like? How are you going to encounter each other? And now you're getting familiar with each other. So post moves are kind of those things that you do consistently in order to score a victory with each date, with each interaction.
The thing that's
right?
crazy. Okay, finish that.
Yeah. No. Go ahead.
The thing that's crazy about the getting to know each other,
Yeah.
it goes both ways.
Yeah.
In theory, the more you get to know someone, the better things should get.
Right.
But
that's not always the case.
correct. Like, here's an example. You and someone meet and sleep together right away.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Now the person begins to, like, speak to you.
Yeah.
And you realize they're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Or you realize you have nothing.
In common.
Now, some would say, well, the sex could still be good. But the opposite side of that coin, or the flip side of that coin, is now you're so turned off.
It's hard to get into it.
So it's hard. I mean, so if you're in a good relationship and none of this applies to you, hold on to that shit.
That's exactly right.
And
Your post moves are good.
100%. And the other and your partner's post moves are good.
Right. You know, the other side of this too is the fact that, you know, once you establish yourself in the game and you understand that, you know, in basketball it's 48 minutes. So your defender starts to figure out your moves, and you start to figure out your defender's anticipation. See, the whole thing in a relationship is once you get past the initial introductory stage where you send your representative, now as you go along in the relationship, whether or not you're working towards something or not, each interaction, you're still, you know, playing offense and defense in the relationship with each other, where you're passing the ball back and forth and each one of you is trying to score a victory. Now, it's easy for men to associate the victory with, did I get into bed with her tonight? But it's not just about that, truthfully, because, what may be important to her isn't so much whether she lets you into bed. It's more about how you make her feel in total for that experience or that interaction together. So, yeah, you may have gotten into bed and you may look at it as a victory, but if that's not what was important to her, what was important to her is how did you treat her after you got your nut off? And, if you treated her a certain way, that was the victory. Because, and the worst part about it is that she ain't going to tell you when you scored. So you might have done the right thing, and if you're not paying attention and aware of what that right thing is, you're going back the next time trying to do the same thing, and she's like, motherfucker, you missed it that time.
So let's say everything is going perfectly.
Word.
So in basketball, or in sports in general, you never want to be predictable.
Right.
So let's say in football you're having a lot of success running the ball.
Mm-hmm.
What you have to do, whether you complete a pass or not, you must start to pass the ball.
Yeah.
Just to keep the defense honest. And that expression, keep the defense honest, is where the defense cannot presume what you're going to do next.
Because if you don't, they start to cheat. They start to push up on
And
you.
all they'll do is play the run.
Exactly.
So in basketball, if you're scoring under the basket all the time, at some point you have to come down the court and take a jump shot.
Right.
Just so they know that there's
They're
a
gonna put
possibility.
5 in the box.
Right, exactly. So in relationships, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important do you think it is to surprise your mate? And I don't mean necessarily surprise them with like a gift or something like a trip, or I just mean do something out of the ordinary. It could be good or bad. I think it's extremely important. From 1 to 10, what would you give that?
I would agree with you. I would say 10. If you're not being creative, number one, you're showing the other person that you have no creativity and that it's not that important to you to be creative. That says something in and of itself.
But I'm saying, Jay, not just creativity. I mean, just do something irregular. Like, because when someone...
You're 100% right. I'm using creative as that word to
be, I see.
Because out creative, of the ordinary.
Okay, because creative definitely implies something positive and good, which I think is also important. But I think even being too available. I'm not saying be shady.
Right.
But
sometimes it's great to limit your interaction simply because, it's also a matter of you need to unplug to think about what you have.
And you want to give somebody a chance to miss you.
Right.
Right? Or to, like, I mean, do you have to walk in the house the same time every day? Like, do you have to do the same thing every day? Like, variety, the spice of life, it's important.
Yeah. 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 I think the other point to that, too, is that a part of what we start a relationship with in terms of sending our representative, if you don't start establishing who you are and letting the other person know that you're not going to do the same thing every time, because number one, you're going to be predictable and it's going to be easy for them to, push you out. But number two is the fact that for your own need to see who you are, what you're about, sometimes you have to change it up just to see if you can make a different shot, if you can, go off the other foot or use the other arm. So
a moment ago, you had mentioned the word being observant, like that. And
right.
So there's two sides to that as well. Right? You have to be observant in your partner's needs and wants, but you also have to be observant to notice when someone is not feeling you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's come right back and discuss that.
All right, let's take a break.
So, being observant, gotta be able to pick up the signs.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when you're in it, it's hard to see clearly sometimes. But if you take a step back, so a lot of times when you have your eye on someone, you're observant.
Right.
You try to notice eye contact, body language, all types of stuff. But then after a while, after you're already with the person, suddenly your antennas are down and you
Right.
begin to not notice any longer or not care to notice any longer. But people show you, no, women show you exactly what they're feeling all the time. They may
Really?
not say it,
Okay.
but they're showing you.
Do share.
Like, so it can be in, forget cooking a meal. It could be how she hands you your drink.
Okay.
Like, if you just really pay attention, you will figure out when she's into it or not.
Right.
And I don't mean it isn't sex. I'm talking about just into you.
Right.
And
So you're talking about the energy, the enthusiasm.
everything is
the
energy,
effort.
bro. Everything is energy. And again, the flip side with the guy, is he doing something because he's there, or is he doing something because he really wants to do it? Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. So, like, the signs are all there. It's just being observant. Some people aren't observant because the day-to-day grind is crazy. Like work, school, if there's kids involved, just life is beating you up. So you're not observant, not because you're ignoring anything, but because your life is so crazy that you're not noticing anything. Others don't observe because they're too wrapped up in themselves.
Right. You know, let me just jump in on that, because that's exactly what I was going to ask you. So is it awareness of the other person, or is it awareness of yourself and the other person, and really what's going on between the two of you within this game of interaction, you know, which is always sort of a little bit of a tug of war, you know, so to speak.
Here's one. So let's say the person you're with grooms themselves a certain way.
Right.
Let's say if it's a woman, her hair, nails, toenails, perfume, things she wears.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain way she does things that she likes, makes her feel good about herself. And it's established early on that you like those things as well.
Right.
And let's say she stops doing those things.
Right. That's an immediate sign.
So that's a sign, but let's go a little further. One Friday comes, she does all those things. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. Approaching that Friday, she's like, I'm going out with my friends on Friday. You're like, all right, have a good time. You're there, she's getting dressed, and you noticed she's doing all the very things that she doesn't do anymore for you or for herself around you.
Right.
Now, she may not even be going to see someone else. So let's leave that out of it. But you realize that looking her best and feeling her best was important for her on an evening she was going to see her friends.
Right.
But it's not important on a day when she's being with you.
Yeah.
That is a sign. It's not necessarily a sign of infidelity, but it's a sign that she's not checking for you anymore.
Right.
She's checked out.
Right. Right.
Sign.
You know, I have to jump in on that and you know, sort of ask this question, which is that in terms of looking at the relationship from the grind that you go through, is it also the fact that if you are bringing the same game consistently, and now we're talking about consistency, and the fact that you said that sometimes you need to make yourself unavailable, it's also timing when you choose to interrupt that consistency, because again, what they might be looking forward to is the surprise of what is he going to do next. wait a second. I didn't expect this from him. I got so used to him coming down the court and he brings different moves and I get it, but I can anticipate this. And suddenly he's not there. Wait a second. I'm not ready for this. He pulled up that jump shot that you talked about. I wasn't defending him.
Here's another version of being observant. If you meet people or a person through your mate, watch very carefully how that person interacts with you. Here's what I mean. You meet your girlfriend's good friend. If that good friend isn't being very warm with you or doesn't seem fond of you from the beginning, you haven't even met yet.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get mad at the friend. Don't go back and tell your girlfriend your friend has an attitude. What you need to realize is her friend's energy is only the result of what your girlfriend told her about you.
Right. Man, that's a good point.
So you meet
Right.
So you meet this girl and she's giving you the cold shoulder.
Right.
Your girlfriend doesn't like you.
Yeah.
Because that girl's only window into who you are
right
is what your girlfriend told her.
Right.
Conversely, you meet somebody, even if they don't say the generic, oh, I heard so many great things about you, but you meet this person is just, they instead of just saying that generic statement, they're like, oh, I heard about this project you're working on, or I know you're really into this, or such and such tells me this and that about you. Or even if nothing else, they just are immediately ready to laugh and chill with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of the things they heard about you.
Right.
Be observant.
Right. On that subject, I want to sort of ask you. So let's say that, you meet a girlfriend, your girlfriend's girlfriend, and she's totally cold to you. But the reason why she's totally cold to you is because, number one, her own agenda, but she doesn't like the fact that her girlfriend has this guy and she's suspicious of you because everything that her girlfriend is saying makes you too good to be true.
That's a factor. Another thing is, a lot of times, guys are so self-absorbed. They're like, yo, I don't like your girl. I think she wants me. Or your girlfriend's just jealous because you're happy and she's not.
Right.
But which all may be true, but at least consider the fact that it's because your girlfriend is shitting on you.
Right. No, it could go both ways. I'm just pointing out and it could also be, just to throw this out there again, because we're talking third party now, is the fact that maybe your girlfriend is in a bad mood or, really upset with you, not because you did anything wrong. Maybe you did everything right, but for her, it's something where it was just that particular day. It had nothing to do with you. And her girlfriend now is looking at you like, yo, you're the worst thing in the world because she feels this way.
So there's a lot of duality to these conversations. The good side of it is when your girlfriend's friend represents for you.
Right.
Like your girlfriend's giving you a hard time and her friend is like, yo, you need to stop. This dude is good for you. Yeah. And so, Jay, don't hold back when I ask you this question.
All right.
For everybody listening, keep it 100.
Mm-hmm.
As the guy who had the dispute with the girlfriend.
Right.
When the girlfriend comes back and says, I was giving you such a hard time. My girlfriend was defending you and she was saying you're right. Tell me the things that run through your head. When your girlfriend is telling you how much her girlfriend was defending your position.
I'm smiling.
But
that's
why?
Number one.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously she is upset with her girlfriend now, number one.
Mm-hmm.
But number two is the fact that she's trying to knock me off a pedestal that she can't. So I'm going to bring this back to a post move. This is literally a skyhook. I mean, she is upset because her girl just said, yo, he is literally dropping a skyhook on you. You can't defend it. And not only can you not defend it, but you need to respect the fact that this is a move that he's going to, put on you every time, and it's the best move.
And you have an ally for life.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's a great look.
Absolutely.
And another ad lib to this whole thing.
Yeah, if nothing else, not only do you have an ally for life, but she's your trainer and your medical staff.
But, giving you all the angles.
Word.
Somewhere in your brain, you're like, does she want to fuck?
Right.
Because there are people that do that. Like, there are girlfriends who, instead of saying, I want a guy like that, they're like, I want your guy.
Well,
and
I'm going to take it one step further and tell you that it's more than likely that she's even told her girlfriend, if you don't date and do right by him, I will. She may not have said it that way.
Yeah, and
but
I think
just from the implication of the way she's talking about you, her girlfriend, your girlfriend, is looking at her like, so you're trying to take him from me?
So let me just say this. That statement, that's a true statement. And depending on the culture and background of that girlfriend,
yeah,
it's about to be an all-out war.
That's exactly
because there are some women
they're very possessive.
You cannot say that to,
yes.
And it's about to be on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's.
Here's the thing about it, and that's why I said I'm smiling, because she's trying to knock me off my pedestal, and she can't. What I'm really talking about is the fact that when you have an advocate for you, number one, you're obviously doing something really right because somebody else is taking notice. But number two is the fact that if your girlfriend is railing against you because you now have an advocate, she's demonstrating that she's on slippery slope going down the wrong way. So in other words, she's throwing a defense at you like a hack-a-shack.
But
yeah,
when her friend advocates for her,
no, advocates for you,
right? Or advocates for you, it might cause her to rethink things and come around. Like, it might not be that she gets angry at her girlfriend. Well, she might thank her girlfriend for setting her straight.
Right. Again, we're talking about the reactionary side of how she comes
Correct.
at you based on what's said. But here's it. Going back to what you said before in terms of like sometimes you have to take a pause or take a break. In that situation, how you act. In other words, like I said, that I'm smiling because I see what she's saying, but how you act is a matter of you might listen to her and say, you know what? I think we need to step back a little bit. That might immediately be like, no, that's not what I was talking about. You understand? She'll backpedal on that. Exactly what you're saying. Or she might say yes, because at that time her emotions are so high, she might say fine. The reality is that based on your level of calmness, your level of patience, your level of understanding, is an opportunity to actually make the relationship stronger. You're being a leader in this situation, understanding that she's throwing a defense at you that might be a hack-a-shack. If you respond negatively to it or react to it without recognizing the situation, the whole thing could flare up and become a huge fire.
So let's go a little bit deeper into friends. One of the best things that can happen to a guy is he's with a girl. She doesn't have that many friends.
Mm-hmm.
And if she does, you want them to be happy.
Right.
Because a girl surrounded by unhappy friends is kryptonite.
Yes.
To a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Here's why. Take a dude. Him and his friends go around sleeping with a bunch of girls, partying all the time. They're wild boys. Let's say a guy meets a special girl. And one day they have problems.
Mm-hmm.
His friend, that wild pack of dudes, his friends, you know what they'll say to him? Yo, man, you got to fix that, bro. It's like there's not that many of them out here. You got a good one.
Right.
That's what, I mean, the most raw gangster dudes, not gangsters, but gangster in mentality of they don't care. They want to sleep with a lot of girls, whatever. Yeah. Even those party animal dudes will say to a guy like, yo, son, give her a call, fix that.
Word.
Because real guys, real dudes can recognize a diamond in the rough.
Right.
A girl surrounded by unhappy women. Fuck them, girl. Let's go party.
Right.
Like, misery loves company. Women are different than men.
Right.
You know, if a guy, your boy calls you up, like, yo, I gotta talk to you, we gotta meet at a bar, and he's pouring his heart out to you, and he's feeling heartbroken, and the girl's like, you like her, like she's good for him, you're like, yo, how can I help? A girl gets the phone call?
Word.
Now, if a girl is happy in her own life, she's gonna give good, genuine advice.
Right.
But if she's unhappy,
right,
and she's single, she's like,
you ain't getting good advice.
You're not getting good advice.
Right, you're not getting good leadership.
This guy could be good for you.
Right.
And she is going to be like, nah, forget him.
Right. So, that brings up an interesting point that when you go past the first couple of dates and you really get into it with somebody, part of, good post moves is you got to get to know their friends, their family, all the influences in their life, and establish yourself with them too. It's not just about the person, it's about their whole world. And the opportunity there, because again, it's a grind, is that every interaction, if you don't come correct in representing yourself, we're not talking about faking who you are or trying to be more than who you are or trying to big up yourself unnecessarily. We're talking about this is the grind of what relationship is. Every interaction, if you like this person and you're saying that, yeah, I'm continuing to date them, whether or not there's a next level or not, you're just in a good situation, a flow. Every interaction with every person that's in that person's life, if you don't work on making sure that it's a good impact where they say something about you exactly as you're saying now, when something goes wrong, or even if you're away for a little while and somebody in her life is just like, yo, let's go out, she might make a different judgment in terms of how she treats herself in that situation that could impact your relationship negatively.
Stages. So you talked about the first few dates, intimacy, discussing finances, friends. Now you're in her world, or in the other person's world, whoever you're dating. I keep talking about myself, so I'm thinking about, being with girls, what have you. But now you're around her siblings, family, extended family, etc. Friends are there too. And they're comparing you to the last dude.
That's right.
Some of them are in love with this last dude, like still.
Right.
Still in, even though the person you're with broke up with that guy. Her family didn't.
That's right. They're still upset with her about it.
What do you do?
Again, so I'm gonna throw a word in here, which is authenticity. If you don't come authentic in every in every interaction, your game is over. Okay, that's the first thing. Because authenticity establishes not only who you are, but allows you to have a pathway. Okay? So if you're feeling a vibe from any one of her family or friends that makes you uncomfortable, the first thing is to just recognize that just because you're uncomfortable, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to live with that person other than that one occasion. And you can bring it up to her at an appropriate time and place later. You know what? This person made me uncomfortable. Believe it or not, she probably will see it or know it because she knows that person pretty well, her whole life, whatever it is. And after, you leave the situation, she might even apologize or ask you, were you okay? Because this person can kind of get out of hand, or they're kind of crazy. She might have even warned you beforehand. But still, when the interaction occurred, she noticed it and was just like, yo, I saw you talking to so-and-so, and I thought you did a great job, but are you okay? Again, your ability to be authentic in that situation to who you are, that's really important. Now, that being said, if you let her know up front, she tells you that, Uncle Richie is a little bit nuts, and if he doesn't have his weed by 3 o'clock, he gets really whacked out, so just try to avoid Uncle Richie, unless he's smoking up outside and he's cool. Now, you can't avoid Uncle Richie. You at this barbecue and he don't smoke up, and now he gets whacked out. And because of who you are, you're very uncomfortable and it shows. But that's you being authentic. That's okay. Now, if you try to hide that shit and you try not to be authentic to who you are, and you just like trying to be really stiff, or you're overly, friendly, and that's not your personality, not only are you going to turn her off, but you might even turn her family off, because they can see, this dude's really uncomfortable. He's making us feel, like he's overdoing it. Don't bring him around no more.
100%. Very well placed. Very well stated, I should say. And there's levels. Like, I think that's a very valid example. And I think the 2 tiers you gave are legit also, like trying too hard, whether versus being yourself. And it's okay to be uncomfortable if you're being true to yourself.
Right.
But when it's someone that she dated,
right,
it's a different level. Because here's the thing. Speaking for guys, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
And in turn, I'm putting myself on the spot. In fact, before I ask you or tell you, I'm going to tell you about me.
Right. You know what? We're going to take a break, and then you're going to tell us about
Let's do
you.
it.
We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Pat, we were somewhere.
I know where we were. I was telling you guys, telling the audience and you, my man, one reason why it's so difficult to be in a relationship where the family and friends of the person you're dating is very close with your girlfriend's ex,
mm-hmm.
and he comes around, is because of this. I'm not going to speak for all men, but I'll speak for myself. I'll throw myself under the proverbial bus first.
Go ahead.
Each time you see a girl you slept with. No, each time I see a girl I slept with.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very photographic memory. And I remember how we got down. And if you're at this barbecue and your girlfriend's ex is around, you're thinking that that's what he's thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how mature you are, that will likely annoy you.
Well, I agree with you. It's a competition thing at that point, whether or not you want to accept it or not, that you are in competition with who was there before.
But let me tell you where the frustration comes into play.
Go ahead.
You are not accusing your girlfriend of anything. You don't think she wants him. But what will annoy you and cause arguments is when she says the following. he's not even thinking about me. Because you're looking at her like, so there's women out here that think they know men. I mean, I'm going to give the ultimate disclaimer here.
Mm-hmm.
If women knew how men really thought,
Right.
they wouldn't do 90% of the shit that they do.
Right.
So let's say the barbecue is at your girlfriend's parents' house.
Mm-hmm.
He's there, he's kissing the aunts, the uncles, the cousins, everybody's reminiscing with him, whatever.
Right.
You're mature, you're not sweating any of that.
Right.
Right? You're cool, you're not like an insecure person. You're sitting there thinking to yourself, I wonder what this schmuck is thinking as he looks at her.
Right.
But beyond that, you're cool. So after everything is over, you and your girlfriend are now driving to your apartment, what have you. You say to her, she's like, "Oh, you okay? Everything's fine." You know, you're like, "Yeah, it's cool. You know, I don't really like it, but I'm fine with it." You know, what annoys me is this guy probably looking at you, you know, thinking about how he had you first, and maybe thinking about some of the things you guys did. And I'm annoyed at that, but you know what? It's over. Let's go chill. And so you're fine until she looks over at you and says, "Oh, babe, he's not even thinking about me."
Right.
Now you go from 0 to 100.
Right.
Because she actually believes.
Right.
She actually believes
No,
that.
she's just convincing herself
But
when
I,
she says it to you.
or I believe some of them actually believe it. Like
Okay.
she actually believes that as she was giving him more mac and cheese,
Right.
as she was refilling his drink,
Right.
when he asked her, "Oh, can you get me another fork?"
Right.
that she actually thinks he was asking her generically, platonically. Like, no. Like,
Right.
there are, listen, there's a lot of women out here that are good people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm friends with a lot of them.
Right.
The man cutting your grass, changing high hats in your home, light bulbs that are like 15 feet up, your ceilings are big, high. The man is changing your brakes, unless he is a blood relative
Right. And
or
even if-
or homosexual.
right.
He is doing all those things either because he slept with you, wants to sleep with you again, or hopes to sleep with you in the future.
Right.
You are not that nice of a person.
Mm-hmm.
You're not that cool.
Right.
I know you think you're such a good person,
Right.
and that's why he does not want to be around you and do all those things for you because you're a good. Now,
Right. You
now,
gotta pass me the ball on this.
Jay, take the rock, man.
So, my problem with your example, and I understand it was a generic example, but you were throwing it out there, is that if you're at her parents' house for a barbecue and her ex shows up, right? If she's getting him an extra mac and cheese, plate of mac and cheese, or giving him an extra fork, that's what I have a problem with. You see, you can say whatever you want. Oh, we're just friends. Or we're no. If you are past date 3 in a relationship, and I'm now getting to know your family, he can show up when you're not there. If he has that relationship with them, that's fine. They can say, "We still love Ray Ray. We still love."
Sorry for the outburst. I was waiting for the name.
So,
Ray Ray, John.
deuces, numbers. So he can show up any other time. But if he shows up at that barbecue when you're there with her, and he's giving Uncle Johnny a pound and Aunt Maria a kiss, and playing with the kids and showing up and being all nice and fabulous, he ain't doing that for anybody but her. Trying to say, look what you're missing out on. You understand? That's the first thing. The second thing is that if she responds to it, say, yo, I gotta leave. If you do anything other than that, you, in my opinion, are a punk bitch. Because the reality is you just got played. And it doesn't matter whether they ever do anything or not. The level of respect that you lost, because for you to watch that shit happen and not have a problem with it.
I would take it a step further. Not we are leaving. I am leaving.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Out of here.
Yeah, I'll catch you later. And when she says, no, what's wrong? What's wrong, baby? It's like, no. See, when we go back to what you were talking about before in terms of surprise, bitch, I'll see you later.
Out of here.
Because for me, it's one of those things. If it's in the first couple of dates, that's cool. You don't know each other yet. But if you're now establishing yourself, and this is post moves, right? If you're establishing yourself with somebody and they come at you with this alternative, yo, I'm not on the court with you.
Now, when she reaches out, you're going to tell her, your ex is a chump and he's a sucker, but I don't care that he's a chump and a sucker. I expected that from him. My issue is with you.
Exactly.
Because you didn't show me the due respect.
The reality is that if you're in any type of respectful relationship with somebody, your post moves with each other are all about helping each other improve. So here's what I'm talking about. Whether you're Serena Williams, Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali, you have to spar with somebody in order to become great. And that sparring partner is somebody that you develop a relationship with more than you ever develop a relationship with anybody else. That's the first thing. But the second thing is that when you go against the greatest competition, George Foreman, Hakeem Olajuwon, Serena's got like a dozen different women she could say. Kornikova, she wasn't that. I don't even know. Steffi Graf, but they were in a different
Correct. Yeah, in her era, she had no peer.
So
it's hard.
So my point, though, is that these guys look forward to fighting each other in the grind because they made each other better. So when you're in a relationship, even though you're, defending and, trying to score on each other to get points and get your way, it's a grind and you're making each other better. When one of you goes out and stops playing against you and is like, oh, what's up? No, he's just a friend, even though we had something before. It's like, no, you left the court. You went over into the stands to talk to, one of your, past relationships, buddies now, and I'm going to leave the court for a while, and maybe I need to go find somebody who wants to play this game with me more consistently. So, I think that, one of the things about that particular situation that reveals a lot about a relationship is, again, how you recognize what you have with your partner and how you're supposed to work with each other. Again, you don't do something like that unless you really don't care. It shows a lot about who you are.
Yeah, and the thing is, we spoke earlier about how your girlfriend's people treat you is contingent upon what she told them about you.
Right.
I gotta tell you, even if the family loves this ex,
right,
if the girlfriend spoke highly enough of you to them,
right,
people wouldn't be doting over this dude like that when he comes through.
That's 100% true. And I'm going to go one step further to, if you're a guy listening to this show right now and you're asking, but what do I say to her when I talk to her next time? Here's what you don't do. You don't ask her.
You don't ask anything. You don't ask why.
Right. But my point is that when it comes up, because you guys will always ask, they'll be like, "Why did you do this? Why did you do that?"
Okay.
So what I'm saying to you is that you don't ask her, "Do you still have feelings for him?"
Never.
And that is more common than you think from guys.
Of course.
What they're thinking is that, that you're personalizing her actions, and you're saying, "Oh, you don't feel the same way about me as you feel about him." Don't go down that road. Don't go down that road for two reasons. Number one, it shows that you've never been in this situation before. But number two,
you seem weak and insecure.
Exactly. You're literally putting yourself out there to get run over by a bus.
Can I close this?
By all means.
I'm going to close this with something, and it'll be a segue into our next episode.
Alley-oop.
A lot of times, we put people in categories. So a guy will be dating 5 girls, and he'll pick this girl and say, she's the good girl.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make her my girlfriend. She'll be wifey, whatever expression he wants to use. For whatever reason, the other 4, he looks at, I just want to sleep with them. They're not worth being in a relationship with.
Right.
I don't want to claim her.
Right.
Gotta say, just because you see that girl as girlfriend material doesn't make her any different than the other 4.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean is, she's only girlfriend material because you deemed her that.
Right.
So, a lot of times, the girls that you're just sleeping with, or I guess this applies for girls too, the guys that you're sleeping with, you have a lower level of standards for them.
Right.
So you're like, they can, like a girl you're just sleeping with, if you find out she was dancing all over some guy or talking to her ex, you're like, whatever, I'm just sleeping with her anyway, who cares?
Right.
Right? A girl might be dating a bunch of guys and, one guy's a mechanic, sleeps with him. One guy has a lot of money, buys her things. So she finds out he's with other girls. She's like, whatever, who cares? But yet the guy that she deems her boyfriend shows him to this crazy high standard, right? I say all of that to say, bringing it back to what we were just talking about, the barbecue example. The girl that essentially played you in front of her family, maybe she wasn't girlfriend material.
Yeah. And that's how you found out. That's the reality. All right. We'll be back. We're back. This is Fun and Truth in Black and White with Pat and Jay.
So to our avid listeners, if you notice, we didn't discuss sports to start the show, nor any politics. We broke the routine of our format because the Yankees lost, damn it, and we're not happy about it. That's right. So since it's our show and we do whatever the hell we want, we didn't talk about it. But, for those looking for that, I figured let me just mention it. They put up a fight. We lost in 6 games. The Yankees have nothing to be ashamed of. There was some missed opportunities. And as we see now with the Nationals being up on the Astros 2-0, no one's unbeatable.
Right.
And we'll be back next year. A couple of other things of note. The NFL is king. And I say that because the NFL off-season and in-season is always riddled with these disturbing stories.
And controversies.
And it's such a drug for the viewer and for the follower and for this country.
Word.
That nothing stops the flow.
Yeah.
Domestic violence issues, players losing their damn minds, all kinds of really very bad things occur. And those registers keep ringing in the NFL. And I think it's king, but also the addiction, part of what fuels the addiction is that There's 82 games in basketball, 162 in baseball. I forget the
16
quantity in hockey, but
Right. It's like another 82 or something.
but
like
in,
that, yeah.
in football there are 16 games.
That's right.
Each game weighs a lot, and you get the hit of that drug, so to speak, once a week.
That's right.
And the third thing I want to mention, NBA is back, and it's just, we talked about it in the off season, the fact that there's no clear cut favorite for the first time in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a good thing because basically it's a long season, and based on teammates meshing together and good health, you can honestly say right now that there's maybe 6 teams that can win the title.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Just wanted to mention those three things. Jay, anything to add there?
No, you know what? I think that this has been a great show. We're gonna walk away from politics on this one because I don't want to curdle anybody's blood. So Pat, you know what I don't give a fuck about?
Let me know.
I don't give a fuck about what you know. And here's what I mean. Perception is not reality. So if I ask you a question and you give me an answer, your answer, what you know, is based on your perception, not reality. Oftentimes, when we get into conversations, we speak from a point of view that is our own and not from an observation of the world around us. And my problem is the fact that what you know is limited only to what you know. What you don't know is far greater than what you know at all times. Unless you are a supreme being, you are limited to a very small sliver of the knowledge and information in this world. And to prove that is the fact that most people can't remember half the shit they used to because now they rely on Google, Alexa, or any other app that they can find to get that information from some other source. So, stop and think about when you answer a question, how am I actually answering this question in a way that it isn't limited to what I know?
Very well put. And just to piggyback on that, as you do my PSAs, people oftentimes confuse what they know with what they think they know. And that just makes it an opinion.
That's right.
And opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. So yours is not
100%.
that special. My PSA, don't mistake someone's kindness for weakness. Many times, people simply don't give a damn about what the hell you're talking about. Many times, people just don't care what your opinion is on them or on whatever it is you're talking about. Other times, people just let you live. Other times, people do something because they feel it's the right thing to do, and inherently, you should do what feels right to you. So in these cases, you may come across as mild-mannered, or you might be doing something kind. The world, and a lot of people in the world, the world's an effed up place, and a lot of people are just as fucked up. And they will Some people only respond to aggression or something that's like, quote unquote, in their face. And it will lead them to incorrectly assess someone as that's being mild-mannered or kind as being weak. I'm here to let you know that you are 2 poor jokes away or 2 comments away from getting put in your place. Getting put in your place can mean getting the taste slapped out of your mouth. It could mean being embarrassed. Could mean being screamed on or yelled at. It could mean in a very neutral voice, neutral tone, being told where to take your bullshit. Do not underestimate the quiet person, the mild-mannered person, the kind person, because you do not want to see the other side of them.
No, you don't. And you know what, Pat? I can't piggyback on that. Well put.
My man.
All right, people. This has been a great episode. We look forward to seeing you on the next go-around.
Peace and love. Email us.